Today is the 11/11 portal. And so I've had such an exciting day today, just interacting with so many fine people online. And so welcome. Thank you guys for watching and thank you for coming in tonight. And so the 11/11 portal is a beginning. And so what it's actually doing is it's bringing new energetics and it's bringing us a new start to like different topics and different adventures that you wish to manifest into your physical reality is able to be manifest specifically today. And so, yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. And I would love to hear everyone here. And hi, Tina. I love you. Thank you so incredibly much for joining. And I hope your vacation was wonderful. So, yeah, it's just happy Friday, everyone. Very good. So some topics that we're actually going to cover tonight are, we had a couple questions, so I wrote them all down for you guys. The first question we're going to start with is, what's the difference between channeling spirit guides and star people? And so there's many different levels to channeling. And so a lot of times I can get religious figures. Now, the religious figures have been in physical bodies, but those physical bodies are from a very long time ago. And so their soul form still exists because you can't kill energetic beings. And so each and every individual reincarnated here on Earth, we are all energetic beings. All of us with the soul are energetic beings. There are some shadow people who are in physical forms who are not, they're kind of like AI, so they don't really count as soul forms. So those people kind of have an extension, an ending period that they might go through. However, if you have a soul and you're on this planet, that means that you are electrical in your nature. And so you cannot kill light and you cannot kill energy. And so what technically happens is, at the moment of our death, you'll actually notice that the aura field will shrink in. And so specifically the star people are saying if it is going to be a traumatic death, then all of a sudden, most of the soul goes back up to the higher self. And it allows a smaller fragment of the soul to be aware of the moment of death or whatever trauma or tragedy is going to manifest. And so that happens that way so that the memory can still stick to the soul and be brought up to the Akashic records with the higher self. However, the primary soul form doesn't have to experience that tragedy. And so every single death, there are guides surrounding you constantly. And so those guides say, they're bringing 9/11 to my attention. And they said during 9/11, that was a planned event in the spiritual realms. And so each person who experienced the end of cycle or a death, their soul forms were pulled out of the body. And so it was preserving or protecting the soul form from maintaining damage during that tragic event. And so that's something that is known to happen to people. For example, say someone's about to experience a near death, they may notice that they may be astral projecting above the hospital bed, witnessing the event happen. And so that's how we can see the consciousness pulls itself out so it doesn't have to experience that. And so that can be a spirit guide. And so someone who's here in a physical form, who ejects from the physical form, goes back into the soul form, they can actually be your spirit guide, which was the whole point of bringing all of that up. And so your ancestors can come to you. Now, let's take, for an example, my grandmother. I smell her sometimes. I hear her sometimes. I feel the way she used to eat her soup. And so that's an emotional expression. And then I'll know that she's with me. Now, I've also had experiences in which they take physical items and they move it across my counters. So they have slid glasses across the counter. They've knocked over brooms before. They flick lights on and off. And so all of these things really happen. And when it happens just so many times, you just, at some point you become like, okay, I know what it is. I'm not going to panic anymore. And so this has happened in my life. So I've seen it and I know it's true. Now, the extraterrestrials are just amazing because Arcturians, the one I work with, he flicks the lights on and off. So I'll go and I'll walk past the light and he'll turn it off. And then I'll go walk past the light and he'll turn it back on and then he'll laugh. And so it's kind of like a joke. So they think everything is funny and they really are very high frequency. And it's very humorous interacting with beings like this. So it's my goal and desire to see every single person watching to have this form of communication with them, because they really are here to teach us how to be more childlike and joyful and happy and just blessed. And so when you have that sort of perception in which you are happy and healthy and you're just super excited to start your day, and you just know in the back of your mind that today is the best day ever and tomorrow's going to be the same. And you'll start to manifest your life very, very differently, because all of a sudden you'll look forward to waking up in the morning and you'll think to yourself, well, what are we going to do today? You know, it's going to be fun and exciting. So yeah, and that's exactly how it is. Now, spirit guides are in spirit form. Star people are in bodies. Yes, that's true. Do star people have spirit guides? Yes, they most certainly do. With the higher you go in the level, let's say you're on like the angel level or the seraphim level, then all of a sudden your guide becomes the source field. So you're actually pulling the information directly from the source field, which is also connected into the Akashic records. And so, but the star people are in physical form. There are billions and billions and billions of extraterrestrials on extra planets up there. And so, and that's not even all of it. There's interdimensional, there's extra dimensional, there's under the water beings. So we have the aquafarians. And so there's beings in every single environment in the solar system. And then there's beings and frequencies that we cannot see. And then there's the astral realm, which contains its own set of energetic beings. And so every single where and every single place that you look for life, you will find it everywhere. They have even found life in volcanoes and in heat. Now, if you go and you astral project, you can see the fire people who are in the center of the earth. So we find life everywhere. Now, let's see. Do the star people have spirit guides, or are they so evolved that they don't need them? Now, that's pretty funny, because the star people are in real physical bodies. Now, you have to realize, imagine what humanity is going to look like when we go through the evolutionary process. And so when we go through the evolutionary process, we are going to realize or become awakened to the fact that we are all one. And so when we know that, then we put down the tools of war and we say, well, I'm not going to harm you because you are me. And in the process of harming you, I'm actually harming myself. So that's where they are. So what they do is they're not going to fight or interact negatively with each other. And so jealousy, greed, hate, mistrust, lies, all that stuff goes right out the window. Specifically, he's saying with lies, because they can read every single thought that flows through your mind. So if you have a negative thought or you're planning on doing something bad, everybody around you is going to know it before you even have the intent or before you're even able to pull a trigger on making that thing happen. And so they have high technology. So if he's saying that the second that they see that someone is of a negative polarity, all the people around him, it's kind of like a radar goes off in their mind. And so they take that individual in and they bring him in so that the scientists can have a look at the brainwave patterning, and then treatment is given to bring them back into a positive alignment. And so they don't experience negativity the way that we experience negativity on this planet. Now, if you take a look at how human beings are formed, we are supposed to be doing this without the technology. So let's take, for an example, if you imagine or visualize, oh, sorry, hold on one second. Just imagine or visualize that human beings lived in a tiny little center. And so everyone knows each other. Now, if one person was to fall into a negative polarity, say one person out of the entire tribe or the clan is to fall into a depression, what's the natural thing that the rest of the people around are going to do? They're all going to try and cheer that person up and pull them out of the depression. They're not just going to let that person sink lower and lower and lower, because that tribe, that clan is more like a family. That's how his civilization works. And so they each help one another. They love one another. And not only that, but he's saying that they each help raise each other's children. And so the children become kind of like everybody's child, except like the parents are still like one-on-one with the kids primarily. And so, it's known on this earth that it takes a tribe to raise a child. And so you want your child to have these experiences with multiple adults so that they can see how the baker lives. They can see how the scientist lives. They can learn to be different attributes from multiple adults. And then all of a sudden they can pick and choose what their highest passion is. Okay, so we actually have a question come in. What dimension are the fairies? Now, the fairies are actually in this density, except some of them, he's saying, the star person, Arcturian, that I channel, is saying some of them are at different density levels, which is why they are perceived in their light form. So sometimes on videos, you may see them on the light form. It may have 2 wings and a tiny little body or 2 little legs, but it will be very, very rapid. So you may only get a view of that. Some of the density levels of the fairies are lower in their density, and so they may have a skeleton system. And so, but they're at a different time space frequency, which is the most important part. They hang out in the forest a lot because they like the frequency of the forests. However, because they're at a different time space frequency, if you can imagine taking the physical reality and fast forwarding it, that's where the fairies live. And so when you want to try and make contact and communication, what you have to do is go inside and rebalance your emotions. Because when you're really happy, then time seems to fly. And so when you're really, really happy and time seems to fly, then all of a sudden tune your emotional frequency inside the physical form to a very high, blissful, loving, caring, kind emotion. And that will grant you access into the perception of the fairy realm, they're saying. Now, there's also fairy rings that are available on this planet. So the fairies naturally have vortex energetics, and those vortex energetics, human beings have been found in history to have walked into a fairy ring and shifted through the time-space frequency. And so then in that case, that individual may have potentially looked like they were missing for weeks and weeks, and then they were discovered and they were still in the same time space as they were moments before when they stepped into the ring. So it's all a different time space reality. Now, human beings specifically, we can control time space. It's done with the emotions. So what you do is you go into the forest, somewhere where you're safe. Always stay on a trail so nobody gets lost. And then try and sit and meditate and control your emotion body. And make it so you can access higher or blissful emotional coding, which then in turn is going to start the process of unlocking the fairy realms. A lot of people watching this, you may even have attunements to the fairies. So if you've ever felt that attunement to the fairy, or like you felt like you just love fairies and you can't really explain it, that generally means that you might have an attunement to the fairy realm. And so what we do when we feel a closeness with fairies is we are encouraged to put an offering outside for them. And so you can leave a fairy house, you can leave some crystals, you can do anything, but then just keep an eye out, because a lot of times they will instantaneously manifest flowers. So in about a week or so, you may notice random flowers popping up out of nowhere, and that is your fairy doing that, because they can do it energetically. And when you leave offerings out for the fairies, what they're doing is they're pulling in the energetics. So let's say, for an example, you put a piece of fruit. So they would suck up the energy of that fruit, or the light ions, which we can see under certain types of technology. We can see the light ions when we take pictures of fruit. And so we can see that the fairies come and they are absorbing. Now, with particular types of cameras, you can even catch the fairies. So all of these things are going to be discovered in the future, but it is the most important thing to have love and light for them, because they are conscious, they are sentient beings. And when you have the fairies protecting you, then they can do great things for you. So they can bless your home. They can add a perimeter around your home and put like a vortex protection ring, they're saying. And so, yeah, it's really important to just be loving, caring, kind to them, and just send them blessings and offerings. And so the offerings is kind of like a tribute, like, thank you so much for protecting my home. And then they'll do it. You'll see, you'll get pretty little flowers. It's just beautiful. Yeah. Okay, are there other planets that need starseed help? Are all the starseed origin planets peaceful? No, not all of the starseed origin planets are not peaceful. And so a lot of times the way the starseed program works is you're up in 5D. In 5D, it's primarily peaceful because unity consciousness has been activated. And so some 5D planets are, they're saying some 5D planets are using technology. And so in that case, they don't necessarily have to be peaceful. So 5D in the technology planets basically means, they're saying, is that they're able to instantaneously manifest whatever they need on the moment. So they have replicators and they have time-space technology. And so that is a form of evolution, and that is 5D, because you reach the level in your development in which your planet is no longer a level 0 civilization, and you have taken care of your basic resources and your needs of the entire planet. But the people who use technology and not the spirituality, those people can potentially turn evil. And so there's always a potential for it. But the technology brings you away from the spirituality until the consciousness is elevated to such a degree in which you realize all of the technology can be achieved using your spirituality. And so your spirituality is basically your biological form as a frequency generator. And so we have the ability and the potential to generate any type of frequency, which then in turn shall shift the manifestation of the physical reality and allow us to instantaneously manifest any item on demand. And so that is done through the process of visualization. So if you visualize that you have a pen, then all of a sudden, someone will come along in the early or level 1 or stage 1 to the gift. Someone will come along and they will put a pen in your hand. And so we'll look at that and we'll say, okay, that's great. Somebody put a pen in my hand. But that's only a free pass because you needed the belief system in place that someone's going to come and put it in your hand. When you reach a level 2, then all of a sudden you don't need to have the time space ability of somebody coming over and giving you the pen. Instead, you just know and believe that the pen is going to instantaneously manifest. And so you close your eyes and you just believe that you have it. What you're actually doing is you're changing time space and you're shifting into a parallel reality in which you already had the pen. And so many times in the beginning, because we were talking about the memory, so the memory is telling you a person walked over and put it in your hand. Many times when you start the process of instantaneous manifestation, they are saying that you may manifest the pen in your hand, and then all of a sudden a deja vu will come in and a new memory will form, and you will remember both timelines. One in which you didn't have the pen and all of a sudden it popped into your hand. And the second timeline of which you went to the store, you bought the pen, you had it here, and then all of a sudden you did this. And so that's how your memory complex works with deja vus and instantaneous manifestation. So it's kind of important because we always think that we're crazy when things like this happens. But the truth of the reality is that we are shifting billions and billions of times every single second. And we are living in a holographic simulation, and we are much more powerful than we have been told. And so when you realize this, physics, quantum entanglement, sacred geometry, all of these different topics are topics to dive into, because one at a time, it allows you to unlock the shade or the veil system. The shade and the veil system are basically your belief systems that trap you into a 3D perspective and a limited belief system. And so when you go through the process of unlocking or activation of your extrasensory abilities, then that has a lot to do with your belief patterning and with going through, and the logical mind becomes active because you're taking the baby steps to learn information that's allowing the belief patternings to unlock. When you reach a certain degree and your feminine energetics, which is magnetic in nature, start to fully activate, then all of a sudden you will not need to take the logical steps. Instead, you will just go right into the heart chakra and you will open and activate, and you could change your belief systems on demand. So if you believe that you wish cotton candy to rain from the clouds, then you will manifest a reality in which that may happen. And so there is no limit to this. This is a holographic simulation and we are in control of it. The control that we have comes from releasing control. So you have to be at peace because you're balancing your emotional frequency with what is in the now moment. And so basically that's putting your life in God's hands or the higher self's hands or whoever hands that you choose to say, right? And so you're releasing resistance to, okay, I believe and I trust and I have faith that everything is the way it is meant to be. And then what do? There's a balance between the release of control and the projection of the manifestation that you wish to form. And so everything is perfect in my reality right now in this very second. I am happy, calm, and comfortable with every single thing I see in my reality. However, I wish to bring my zone of focus onto X, Y, and Z. These are my manifestations. And so it's a balance between release and focus. And when you balance these two properly, it's kind of like the scales. You balance them both properly, and all of a sudden your energetics will fire up, and it will allow you to instantaneously manifest what it is that you wish to see in your physical reality. Yeah, excellent. Okay, hold on. What do the star people know about the dragon realm? So dragons are actually extraterrestrial, and so they're dinosaurs, and they're highly, highly telepathic. At one point, humanity had them as pets. And so we were able to ride certain types of dinosaurs, not all of them, certain types. And so the Brontosaurus was one that used to always communicate with the human beings on the planet. And so The dragons, you're actually able to make contact and communication with them because they are on a planet. And so there's a whole planet of different types of dragons. And there's water dragons, there's air dragons, there's flying ones, and there's land ones. And so they have their own planets. They interact with humans. They do know about evolution because they are a form of familiar, the star people are saying. And so a familiar is a familiar animal expression which shares in the evolutionary process. Now, that particular breed was not allowed on this planet after a certain degree because of the size of the species and the size of the human beings. So if they're saying if the human being was excessively high, like say human beings were a giant, that dragon would have been allowed in this reality. Also, they're saying rock people were real. And so when advanced magicians were activated on this planet during a time of a golden age, long, long ago, they are saying that those individuals took their manifestation abilities and they manifested such beautiful things to occur on Mother Earth or Gaia Sophia. And so when that happened, you had all sorts of creatures. You had gnomes, you had vampires, you had dragons, you had rock people, you had the mermaids. The mermaids are actually the aquafarians, and they're still here on the planet, but they have went from the shores into the depths of the ocean. And so when we raise our consciousness to a certain degree, those type of beings are going to come back to us because they actually pulse the childlike mind, the Arcturians are saying. And he's saying that because they tune into your creative consciousness mind and they spark your excitement and joy and wonder, they will always be someone on the planet who wants to manifest with those beings. And so just knowing that is it's a blessing, because that means that in our lifetimes, we are going to get to see these beings, meet them, say hello to them, and experience the good, the bad, and the ugly with them, because not all the beings are nice. And so gnomes, they are known to bite, he's saying. And so I've never known any gnomes, so it's just him. But he's saying that they bite sometimes, and they run in your house, and you don't know that they're there. And he's saying that, so they're kind of trick. You know, some of them are really nice, he's saying, but most of them bite. So be wary. But these beings are going to come, and they're going to come because people are going to activate them. We're going to call them. We're going to manifest them. And so the process of manifestation is having a thought. And when the thought is in the consciousness grid, then all of a sudden somebody is going to want it manifest into their physical reality. So it depends on the frequency that you are holding to what timeline or parallel reality that you will shift to will determine the type of beings that you are able to see in your physical life. Yeah. Okay. What do the star people say? No, I read that. Do the star people even share what their planet is like? What do they do for fun? See, I've asked this, and I've asked this multiple times, and the answer that I continuously get is our planet is ever changing, because they have master magicians have been unlocked on their planet. And so they are able to take a magic wand and make something appear out of thin air. And so their planet is ever changing every single day. Now, just imagine for 1 second, if human beings had full access to replicator technology. Let's say someone built a really big replicator that can replicate houses. Okay. Wouldn't the surface of our planet be ever changing? Because, okay, poof, here's a house, and it only took a split second, right? So then if you want to remove the house, you put the replicator over it and you remove the house. So that generally means that we are able to produce things and take things away instantaneously. So how does our civilization look when we have that ability? And so what they're trying to teach you is that you do this with instead of the replicator, you can do the same exact thing using your biological form as a frequency generator. That's how powerful we all are. We have extrasensory abilities. We are divine. We are electrical in our nature as well as magnetic, and we are connected into a source frequency that basically gives us extrasensory abilities that are godlike powers. And so the activation of those powers comes from going within, being at peace, being in love, harmony, and bliss. That's how you activate it. So the universe is always going to push each and every being towards love. That automatically means the source frequency, or God, or whoever you want to call it, that is the judge and the jury. And so that is going to make all of the arguments and disputes correct. It's going to rebalance the scales for you. So if somebody throws a stone at you, you have zero need to cast one back. As a matter of fact, if you do cast one back, then you're going to get 10 stones cast back at you, because that's the way it is balanced through the wheel of karma. And so that's casting negativity. Now, what happens when we cast positivity? Now, positivity works the same exact way, because when you project a positive energy out into the civilization, then all of a sudden you are going to receive that positivity back at you tenfold. And so whenever somebody does something that's hurtful or mean, send it love and light. And then focus on doing positive, good deeds to your collective. Because for every one person that is hurt, that person just needs more love to be healed. Because if that person was healed, they would never try throwing negativity at you, first off. But what happens when you do kind deeds for other people? Then all of a sudden you brighten their day. And sometimes the people who are at their lowest place in life, they just need a hug. Or they may just need somebody to tell them that they love them and that they are doing a great job and that they got this, or they can make it through. And so it's very important for each and every one of us to take that into consideration when we're walking around the civilization, because each and every person on this planet is traumatized to some degree. We all have experienced life on this planet. And so it's not easy for everybody. Some people breeze right through it, but what do they learn when you breeze right through everything? Even the people who have all the money in the world and they really don't have too many problems, they fall into depressions because they're not happy. And so that's part of the evolutionary process as well, because the physical reality is not meant to keep us maintained and happy. We are meant to overcome the physical reality. So you see the law of polarity stepping in, having too many items, not having enough items. Then that experience cross cancels and it allows you to rise and evolve above that situation. And so there's many different layers and steps to the process of evolution. And so you can determine a level of evolution by how the person is thinking and what their conscious thoughts right now in the moment they are thinking about. So certain examples would be the religious programming, the school districts, the chemicals in the food. And so these are all different topics, but these are all different levels of evolution, because when you cross cancel each level, you come to peace with them, you release them, you release your emotions to them. Normally, when we find out about one of these negative topics, the first thing that we do is we fire off a negative emotion, we get all upset. So we want to start coming to peace in terms of everything is okay. Everything is in a divine order, a divine place. Everything is the way it's supposed to be right now in this second. I am where I'm supposed to be. And there's no such thing as lazy, because if your body is telling you you need to rest, you should be going into meditation. When people start to pick on to the process of evolution, you are going to see meditation studios and centers and temples popping up left and right. Now, once again, your temples are here. And so everything that you need is right inside of you. So you do not have to go to a church. You do not have to worship. You do not have to do any of that. You have to go inside yourself. Those are your temples. And so all of the power is inside of you, all of it, everything. If you want to have a conversation with God or an extraterrestrial, you have to go inside yourself. And so that's what I had to do too. Because in the beginning, I was going into meditations and then I was sitting in a zone of focus and I was doing automatic writing. And I didn't stop. I did it every day because I knew that someone was talking to me. And so the more and more and more I practice, the more you place your focus on what you want, the more it will strengthen that timeline to manifest into your physical reality. Okay, let's see. Thank you guys for listening. Okay, I am drawn to a dragon group called, I can't say that name. Do the star people know of these dragons? Dalvik? I can't say that name. Okay. They're saying that there's many, many different particular types of dragons, and they're only referring to one planet, but there's billions of different planets with dragons. He's also saying that some dragons have gotten evolved to such a degree in which they have now taken on a humanoid form. And so that's 2 arms, 2 legs. Maybe they have wings, just like the reptilians are like that too, actually. And so the reptilians, they look like giant lizards with wings. Some of them have wings and they look like giant lizards who are really tall and ugly and smell. And so dragons are the same. It's like every single insect and every single animal on this planet can evolve into a humanoid form. And so a lot of times you have different extraterrestrial races who are genetically modifying their own biological forms into tiny little insects, like the praying mantis people. And then they put praying mantises down here on the face of the planet. Now, that's also a genetic study because they want to see what's happening with the insect. They can tune into the consciousness grid of that insect. Then they're able to see the consciousness of all the insects, what's happening with them. So my Starman, he can actually project his consciousness into a fly. That's an insect. I've also seen him, and thank God for him. But there was this gigantic bee, and it was big. It was big, and it was going to come in my front door. And I was like, oh my God, and I held my breath. And he made the bee go to the door, and the door was wide open. It came into the door, and then it turned around and flew back out. And he was like, you're welcome. So they can take control of the insects. And so when you have people like the praying mantis beings, for an example, who genetically modified this tiny little praying mantis and they put them on the planet, you don't know if that is just an insect or if that is an extraterrestrial controlling that insect. And there are telepathy and they can communicate with us and they know who we are. They can tell you binary codex frequency right away. So if those extraterrestrials can tell who you are by your light encoded frequency and you step on one of those bugs, they put your name on a list. And so you should be very wary about bugs that you kill. And certain, I want to say like in India or like the Buddhists, they tell you not to kill the bugs. I'm all about getting a can of spray and getting them. Not anymore, because you never know who is connected or tied into the insects. And so you don't want to cause harm because you don't know who's watching what. Yeah, this is very, very important. Okay. Oh, so it's been a half hour. How is everyone's 11/11 portal? I hope you guys are doing amazing today. What can we expect in the coming year, 2023? 2023 is amazing. And so, yeah, we're all being pulsed or pushed right now to clear our shadow work. And so I can see this straight across the board. Even the people who are very, very physically focused, they're being like guided along the ascension timeline. And so they're starting to ask questions. And that's what I see from the people around me. And so 2023, you can really see many, many star seeds have underwent the process evolution. And we woke up from the conspiracy to the this is happening, we've made peace. And now all of a sudden we're starting to look more inside. We're starting to really start to activate our electrical grid structure. And we're starting to really look what's next, right? Because there's only so long that you could be in fear until that fear subsides. And then all of a sudden you're rebalancing yourself, you're self-loving and you're healing all that mess. And then all of a sudden you're looking for what's next. And so 2023 is one of those moments where it's what's next. And so being called to release and do the shadow work means that you're really taking the conscious intention to go inside and heal yourself. It's not easy but you should really make a journal, because the easiest thing to do is make a book. And actually, if any of you guys are trying to make millions of dollars, all you need is a journal and a pen, because the number one people in business will tell you when they have a calendar and they write down their goal. So let's say I want to have 1,000 people follow my videos, which I could do. Then they sit down, they go into quiet states. They don't call it meditation because these are business people, but they sit down, they critical think. Okay, what can I do to get my goal? And so then they come down with different ideas and they write them down. Now throughout the day, they start checking off those ideas. If you did just that, you would make so much money. That's actually how you can unlock your abundance codes, using the masculine way of manifestation. And so there's two different ways in manifestation he wants to clarify, because the feminine way of manifestation is coming into your heart and pre-setting the timeline that you are vibrationally in alignment with. That's a magnetism because it's from your heart. And so your heart holds an emotion grid. It is hexagonal in nature and it is also blue. This is what directly connects into the magnetism. Your thought grid is in the pineal gland. These two things interlock and they connect with one another. It forms an icosahedron. And so now the grid is green because yellow and blue make green, and it forms the memory grid. So when you start to form the memory grid, then all of a sudden you're able to tune into the emotions and the thoughts of every single action that you had in the physical reality. When you do that, you become limitless, because if you were able to recall every single thought that you've ever had up until the time that you were in the womb, then all of a sudden you become a genius IQ. You remember everything. And so they've done studies on people who are walking down the city street, and the subconscious mind is able to retain all of the information seen in the view. So that means if your corner of your eye sees a license plate, your subconscious mind has now stored that license plate. So unlocking the memory grid is actually a part of evolution as well. Because when you unlock the memory grid, then all of a sudden you have access to all of that memory and you become a genius overnight. So that's something that everyone should be placing focus on, because we are able to do it because the sun looks white and because the frequency of the entire planet is rising. And not only that, but when you start to unlock the memory grid in that type of manner, your IQ becomes raised very, very rapidly, which allows you to see conversations from angles. And so what does that mean? See by angles. So let's say I'm having a conversation with you. Then all of a sudden I can project into the future, or I can see into the future. Okay, if they say this outcome, then I could say one of these three things. But then if they say this outcome, I could say one of these three things. So, and it goes on and on to the third degree. So at one point I was seeing every single conversation, and it was a good minute in advance. And I would see all the potential outcomes, and then I was able to take a mathematical sequence, and I would be able to determine which sentence and which timeline I was standing on just by doing that. That's actually a very high IQ level that's been activated in the memory grid. Each and every one of us can do that. It's nothing special. That's how the star people flow. And they said that each and every one of us are going to unlock that in time. And so my star man sees like 2 or 3 minutes in advance. And so he knows what I'm going to say. So it's kind of like he's already heard the punchline to my jokes. And so he always catches me early. And it's really interesting to see how he works and how he functions. And so now the way that he tunes into the memory grid is kind of like this. Let's say I'm talking about a piece of selenite crystal. So I'll bring up selenite crystal, but then all of a sudden I'll feel him pull into my memory grid, and every single experience of when I've ever interacted with selenite will come into my conscious mind. And it's like, wham, I go through all these different memories, but it's instantaneous. It's so rapid. And so he's like, now I've just seen every single moment that you've ever held this crystal. It's every single moment in my entire memory complex. So they have fully developed the memory grid abilities. Okay, so okay. I am just going to take a minute to tell you guys about some of our specials. And so we do want to start a new monthly crystal box. And so I had this great idea. And the idea was, let's start a crystal gifting service where you can send me a crystal and then I'll send you a crystal. And so we'll do a crystal trade. And then we started thinking, we're like, how are we going to pay the shipping? And so it spiraled. And so what we plan on doing now is we plan on selling a monthly crystal package. So we can put together crystals for you guys. And not only that, but I'm personally going to go over each and every crystal. And I'm going to be doing crystalline DNA activations on the crystals, as well as healing modality activations on them with the star people. And so we are going to put that box together. And so that's already up on the website for sale. Now, we are also going to have a P.O. box in which you guys can take your homegrown crystals and you could donate them, because we can still take those and you guys can write a little note with them and we can put them in the monthly crystal box and then we can ship them to everybody. This way, it's like a giving and a taking. So it's going to be great. And so we'll work out the bugs to that, but we are going to start doing that immediately. Now, the monthly crystal boxes, we're going to be putting surprises in there. And so surprises can go all the way from like a piece of paper that says you just want a free session with me to maybe a t-shirt or some sage or, whatever cool, fun things that are like in our attention that we're like, everyone needs this, or some moon water, or, anything. So we're going to come up with some good stuff. So we are selling those right now, and those are on the website. I do offer private sessions. Those are also on the website. And I offer private healing sessions. So the healing sessions is very, very intimate. So we dive into the trauma, we try and release and let go of all that. And really, we go through each and every one of your chakra systems, and we try and just release the density and raise the frequency. And so it helps a lot of people to heal themselves. And that's the most important thing, because when you start doing the shadow work and you start healing yourself, that's really when you're able to level up, bring more light inside of your energetic grid structure, which then in turn allows new knowledge and new information to be downloaded. And so that's always the way that we activate our extrasensory abilities. It's by releasing the old energy and allowing the new energy to come into our grids. So that's how we do the healing sessions. This is a lot of fun. The Ascension sessions, your star family steps forward. And so you will learn who your star family is, who you're working with, who your guides are. You can also ask them any questions. So you can come with a list. It's fine. We'll answer all of them for you. We do offer My partner, Allie, she actually does morning meditations. And so that one is really, really good. It's up on the website as well. And so she's doing that constantly. And so I want to get into because she sits there and then you guys get your morning meditation on, then you feel rebalanced and rejuvenated, and then you go about your day and then check in with us because we are trying to build a community here. So all of the people who watch my videos, it's like I feel like they're all becoming family. Like we're so close. It's amazing. Please like, share, and follow, especially on the YouTube video. If you guys can go to the YouTube and click subscribe, that'll really, really help us. We do have an email subscription list. And so the email subscription list, that's another one. Sometimes we just wake up in the morning and we're like, let's throw discount codes out. And so we go to the email list and we send out coupons and discounts and, all of these fun things, because this is the whole point of having a community, is to do fun things and to be a community and just to love the experience. And so we are running a Star People private group on November 19th at 8 p.m. That is a Zoom call. And so that's a video where you are going to get to have one-on-one time with me and ask your questions. That Zoom call is recorded so that everyone at the Zoom can also rewatch it. So those are some things that the Tree of Life organization and DanielleLipton.com are going to be hosting. So just stay tuned. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Can you tell me more about the Starseed program? Sure. What can we expect in the coming year? Okay, no, I did that one. Okay, so the Starseed program. Many times the Starseeds have come from 5D. And so the Ascended Masters are also included in that. They're at a tinier, higher frequency than regular 5D, though. They drop into the 3D reality in order to help facilitate raising the planetary frequency of Earth. However, the first couple of waves of starseeds, they realized that they weren't properly attuned to this frequency, and then a lot of them got stuck here. So the process of reincarnation has kind of been hijacked on this planet. So they put an electrical grid structure around the Earth so that when a soul form exits the body, it kind of kicks them right back into another body on Earth. And so it is what it is. And so the Star People, what they do is a lot of us actually have stasis pod bodies on ships or on the hometown, so that if something is to happen to our physical form, they can yank the soul and put us back in the old body. This way we don't get stuck in that 100,000-year cycle of reincarnation. And so, it's kind of like a protection. But we drop down from the 5D into 3D. Now, the original people came right into Earth. The secondary and third waves, we were sent to an internship program. And so the internship program was, okay, you're going to go to this planet, say the Lyrian or Arcturians or Sirius B, C, right? And so they sent us to a planet, and you have to get used to being in a physical body before you get sent to Earth, because Earth is too low of a frequency. So we went through one there. Then we went through another one on a different planet. You have to have 8 different lifetimes in your Merkaba field in order to really come to Earth and to be considered a human. And so otherwise you have to have all 8 of those points in the Merkaba field has to be filled with a past life emotional resonance, he's saying. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to evolve up to the higher frequency range. Now, because we came from a higher degree and we fell into the 3D, each and every one of us, he's saying we already had those, except they got replaced with the internship program lifetimes. And then when we were ready, we were able to come down to Earth. So in your past life, I'm sure many of you guys, you thought you were a rock star, right? And you were like, oh, I got this. I can handle this. And so I know that's probably the tune I was singing when I was there. And it's a whole different story when you get down here, though. You're just like, come pick me up, guys. It's funny. But many of us thought that we can handle this. And a lot of us right now are at a point, because I see it reflected into the people I interact with, where they feel like they made a mistake. Maybe they don't belong here. But you have to look at their biological frequencies, because if you took their biological frequencies and you could tell what frequency range that they're at, all of the star seeds are holding into higher frequencies, even if they're in deep, dark depressions. And so have a look at what those frequencies are actually doing to the planet Earth. We are raising the planet's frequency very, very rapidly by every single thought that gets projected in and out of our mind. And so just by you being awake and aware and realizing that we're spiritual beings, that thought is actually tuning into the consciousness grid, and it's raising the planetary consciousness. That in itself is allowing for the consciousness of the entire human collectiveness to be raised. How many manifestations should we be focusing on at one time, and for how long? That's actually funny because there really is no limit. So, okay, now Starman is saying that sometimes when you focus on too many things at once, you get distracted and the energy gets too scattered. So he's saying make a tiny list. So let's say, for an example, he's saying you want to have a list to do with writing all your bills out. So you make a list for that. Then you want to have a list for, okay, you want to have a car, make a list for the car. What kind of car? Where can you go for the car? What kind of bank loans can you get for the car? That's all part of the manifestation of the car. And so you keep going with different lists. This way it's easier because wherever you can place your focus, that's where your manifestation energy is going to be placed. When you have too many windows open, like let's say you have too many windows in the internet browser open, he's saying that the whole computer can get jammed up. And so you really want to minimize it. So if you have too many manifestations open, maybe you only focus on this half, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the secondary half for the rest of the days. And so that's one way of splitting the time space on it. However, when you are focused on manifesting anything, a visual representation will always trigger the subconscious mind. You do not have to visually look at it with your consciousness every single day. You can store it as your cell phone screensaver. You can hang it up as a picture by your bedside. And every morning you're going to walk past this picture and just carefully say, thank you, universe, for giving me all the stuff on the list. And then all of a sudden, one at a time, you're going to start to see those things come in and manifest into your physical reality. It happened to me. I had one of my very, very good friends. She made a manifestation board. She put a UFO, and the UFO actually, it shone a little light down on a wallet with a police badge. And now nobody knows this, but this is my wallet. And this is, my ex gave me this years ago, but it gets me at a ticket. So I was like, I'm keeping it. But that's the photo that she put on the manifestation board. And so seeing it every day, now all of a sudden, my Starman came into my reality. And so he's like, oh, we're watching you. And then there's the wallet. And then it's just amazing. Like you'll start to see the synchronicities of anything that you're really trying to manifest when you open your perception and you believe that it's a possibility. And so just believing it to be a possibility is huge because it can change your entire lifetime. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, my child was telling me that good aliens live on the sun. Sometimes she starts talking about various aliens in different places, sun, moon, etc. Wondering if she's getting this information from the stars. Yeah. And so the children know, like they know their natural intuition. I had a dream once. I was actually having a nightmare and my daughter was about 2 and she was sleeping right next to me. And in my sleep, I woke up because I heard her crying. And so the second I woke up, she stopped crying like moments after. And she was still asleep. She never woke up. So that happened to me several times with her. So I actually started to realize, okay, well, her consciousness is watching my nightmare and it's making her cry in her sleep. And so the children know so much more than we know. And the star people have said multiple times that the second that the solar flash comes, any child that is below the age of puberty is going to instantaneously become our guides. So we're not going to be looking towards any adult for, oh my God, we're going to evolve. The solar flash happened. What do we do? It's going to be like, there's the child. And the child is going to be instructing us what to do. And you should listen because they know best. They actually have just gone through the process. And many of the children, the star people are saying, many of the children right now they have been taught. And not only have they been taught, but they're saying that during their sleep cycles, they go up on UFOs and they train these children so that when the solar flare happens, it's going to activate their memory grid. And all of the information from the training on the UFOs is going to be released and the child will remember it all. And so the extraterrestrials are really, really trying to help us evolve. Select extraterrestrials, he's saying. The star people are very non-political. And so they're not trying to do any of those physical items. They're very happy-go-lucky, joyous. They just want to laugh. They just want to have fun. And they just want you guys to focus on love and light. And so that's the kind of star people that I roll with. And so they want us to evolve because when we evolve, we're going to be happier, brighter people. And then not only that, but all of our memory grids of humanity and Earth, all of this is going to actually add into their collective consciousness because we are them. So it kind of works best for both species, because when we evolve, they're going to have access to all of us because we're them. Yeah, it's amazing. How do we know if we have a space pod body up there? So yeah, that's a good one. A lot of people may have had dreams, and in the dreams, you may have woken in a space pod or a stasis pod, he's saying. And so in the dream, I had this dream a long time ago. I had no idea what it was. Right as I said that, it was 50:05 on my clock, so 5 and 5. But I opened up the pod, I sat up and I looked, and I was in a giant white room. And then all my friends were in the pod, and they all sat up and they were like, we were waiting for you. And so that it begs the question, are we in a holographic simulation somewhere on an extraterrestrial UFO, and we're just doing this to have fun? Who can answer that? Because they're not going to tell me that, because I would be like, hit the reset button, guys, right? And so, yeah, like we have these jokes all day long. But yeah, who knows? Because this is a holographic simulation. That is what the physics shows us. And so there are Adinkra codes in the universe. And Adinkra codes is kind of like an error correct code that we use in our computer systems. And so that corrects the computer software if something goes wrong. We found those codes in a binary format in the solar system, in the universe. And so this is a holographic simulation. And when you start to know that, then all of a sudden you can activate your extrasensory abilities, which is basically activation of the subconscious mind and how we are able to program the holographic simulation so that we can have a more pleasurable experience, or we can instantaneously manifest peace, love, and joy on the planet, or even we can clean up the oceans, because all of these things are manifestations that I place my energy on daily. And so cleaning up the oceans, sending love and light, cleaning up the weather patterns. Now, the Indians knew that with proper techniques, you can hold on to an emotional frequency and you can change the weather patterns. So what they used to do is they took their shoes off, they grounded to the earth. And so while they were grounded to the earth, they used to hold the emotion code of either rain or sunshine. And so if it was raining and they held the emotion code of sunshine, you have to open your heart chakra. You have to be in a love-based bliss emotional frequency. And then all of a sudden, thank Mother Earth for changing the weather pattern, or thank you for it is a beautiful blue sky, sunshiny, warm day. Thank you, and be happy and grateful. And then all of a sudden, you may see a ring of blue open up above your head, because a vortex of energetics will actually flow through your energetic grid structure. It will come out the top of the crown chakra, and it will vortex like the DNA spirals up. It will do that, and it will start to beam into the upper atmosphere, and it will start to part all of the, I was going to say chemtrails, but he's like, just say clouds. And then all of a sudden, when all that parts, you'll see a ring of blue above your head. And so then, I mean, you do this a handful of times, and then all of a sudden your belief systems are set, and it takes a split second to change the weather. So each and every one of us can do this. And if you're having a hard time doing it individually, grab some children and do it with the power of 3. Because when 3 people truly believe in their hearts that they are capable of doing things like this, and they get into that zone of focus, and they just give love and blessings and thankfulness, then all of a sudden, you can do great things. It's faith the size of a mustard seed. We can change the clouds. We can change the skies. We can move mountains. We can move pyramids. It's an instantaneous manifestation of a holographic simulation. And so the science tells us that this is true. This is how quantum physics works. Yeah. Anybody have questions? Say. Okay. This one is deep. What caused genocide to the Indians? Did they manifest it? Every single race had to experience some form of genocide. And so the history has been tampered with. And so we see this with not only Indians, but we see this with Irish. We see this with Native Americans. We see this with, African Americans. We see this in every single race. The Jewish people were even murdered. And so this goes way back to Egypt. And so it is an illusion of separation is what it is, because not only has all this trauma and chaos happened on the earth, but it's constantly brought up in our reality. So we are force-fed this information in the schools. And so you're forced to learn this stuff. You're forced to have it in your consciousness. And so through the process of digesting all this separation, then all of a sudden we start asking questions. Is this really necessary to kill each person? Like, why did we have to experience this? Why did this have to be here? Well, cycle repeats happen. And so you have to realize there was once a point in time. The star person is saying there was once a point in time in which humanity was very small. And so that very small, there was an injustice to some of you. And so that injustice is what branched out and started a cycle repeat. And that cycle repeat ended. It never ended. It started genocide amongst all races, because the wheel of karma was already there. And so once that cycle had started, it had been carried out amongst all the races in order to allow the degree of separation that you guys are experiencing now. Each and every race on the planet was genetically modified, each and every one. This is why we all look different, by the way. And that's because extraterrestrials came down here and they genetically modified us. Now, a lot of the star seeds, the star people are saying a lot of the star seeds have been genetically modified in order to activate the crystalline DNA strands and the crystalline energetic rich structures, which is basically your junk DNA, which is where the extrasensory abilities are dormant. And so if you have a look at codons are a grouping in the DNA. And so it's a 3-strand of the DNA. Now you could turn those on with your epigenetics, you could turn them off. So what everyone can try and do is make a visual representation of shutting off the codons pertaining to the genocide, he is saying. And so when you do that, what you're actually doing is clearing out the ancestral karma or healing the ancestral karma to genocide amongst all humanity. And when we start to go in and we start flipping the switches in the genetics, then all of a sudden it will stop the cycle repeat manifestation into our physical lives. And so we will no longer have the need to have that experience in the physical reality. Now, they're also saying that the codons and the genetics can also be tampered with in multiple ways by your conscious mind. Not tampered with in a bad way, but you are able to access your computer system. And so you can make changes and modifications as you see fit. And so with that being said, if there is any extrasensory abilities that you wish to turn on, let's say you wish to turn on the ability to levitate, you would have to touch the gravity levity frequency wave. And so that frequency wave is directly tied into a series of codons. So get a pen, get a piece of paper, and write down your magical codons. Doesn't matter what you make them look like. Make them look like 3 little lines, attach them into a DNA, and write a little note. These are connected to anti-gravity abilities in the biological form. And so when you write this down and say, mine are turned on so that I can fly, just put that on your wall and just look at it every day and say, thank you, universe, for doing this. What you're going to do is you're going to change the genetic expression inside your physical form, which will allow the crystalline DNA strand to activate in that particular area and shall allow you to access those extrasensory abilities. That is how powerful we are. Now, Elon Musk also made a comment talking about we can take genetics and we could turn a human being into a butterfly. So what is that man trying to say? Because he knows genetics, because he dabbled in it, because he has a lot of money. So they can heal every single disease using your genetic expression. So you can do that with the power of your mind. You do not need to have a scientist. You do not need to have a laboratory. Anything that you can do with genetic modification in a laboratory, you can easily do with the power of your mind. This is how the placebo effect works. When you take a sugar pill, that sugar pill, it's your belief system that you're taking it. You know it's going to heal you because you've taken it. You believe in it. Manifest the healing in the physical form. But all healing is self-healing. And so what I'm telling you is that you can change your epigenetic coding so that you can activate your extrasensory abilities anytime that you see fit. And so take it like a regular manifestation. How would you manifest a car? You would write it down, you would see it, you would visualize it, you would put your focus on it, you would be thankful, grateful. Yes, I have the money, I can get it. Do that for turning on your genetics. And so you can even turn on the genetics to change your eye color. You do not have to go flying. That doesn't have to be something that's so incredibly out of your belief systems if you don't believe it. Most of you guys believe it, though. I know you do. And so do something small. Change your eye color. You could change your hair color. Let's say your hair turns to gray. Were you born with gray hair? No, you weren't. You were born with whatever color hair that you had. And so what you can do is you can make a list, put it up on your wall and say, my epigenetics for my red hair is turned to such a way it's on so that my hair will always stay youthful. And then all of a sudden, you're going to change the genetic expression of your hair. Or let's say you have cancer. Well, when you had cancer, you turn the genetics on that the cancer fired up and turned on. So turn them off. Put a piece of paper on your wall. Say thank you every day. See it, visualize it, be grateful, allow your body. Now, when you get a paper cut on your finger, the zone of consciousness is your zone of focus. And so the more focus that you put on that paper cut, and you say, thank you, body, for sending white blood cells to heal this paper cut. The paper cut is going to heal 3 times faster because you put your focus on it. You sent it love and light, and you commanded the physical body to heal it. And so your body is just waiting for you to start making commandments. What do we do in DOS prompt? If anybody doesn't know what a DOS prompt is, it's what the computers used to look like when we first had computers. And so it's a little DOS prompt. And so we use that DOS prompt to enter commandments into a computer system. The universe has, coding that shows us that is the same exact thing as an operating software of a computer system. So take your commandments and command your body to do what you want it to do, and just pretend, open your childlike mind and see what kind of responses you get from your body. See if your hair changes back to the original coding. See if your wrinkles on your face go away. The wrinkles on your face are actually caused by emotional expressions. And so when you know this and you start to unpack and go through the shadow work, then you can see that you can heal any and all wrinkles on the face instantaneously. This has been scientifically documented as well. And so nothing is solid. When you know this, that every single mark on your body, every single scar, every single wrinkle, every single gray hair on your body is something that you manifested due to an emotional experiential. And so what you can do is you can go inside you can heal the emotions that you have walked. And so relieving or healing any and all darkness that you have walked is going to allow more light to shine through. That light is going to have an effect on your epigenetics as well as your genetic coding that forms the biological form as well as your energetic grid structures. So yeah. Okay. Let's just take us up. Are our parents and children also part of our starseed family? Not necessarily. A lot of times the starseeds actually were born into families who have a lot of ancestral karma. And so they were born into the densest of densest families in order to kind of like go through and heal all that stuff for the family. And so a lot of times it wasn't an easy experience. A lot of times it was a lot of drama, chaos, or craziness. And, all this stuff happens, and you're taking on multiple diseases as well, especially the ascended masters who come down here. A lot of them work the darkest of paths and they find it super easy to heal. So they can go, okay, that's healed. This is healed. This is healed. This is healed. And they go right through the entire list. And it actually is healing the entire family energetically, which then in turn breaks the cycle of karma for the future generations in the entire family. And so some of the children in the family may choose to take on the ancestral karma, but at that point, it's only a soul's choice because the energetic structure of the entire family's grid has been cleared of that trauma. And so we can feel when shifts in the air have taken place, because let's say you're in an environment, that environment is very toxic. Everyone can feel it. Well, when it has been lifted, it feels like a weight is lifted off your shoulders. That's what the entire family genetics will do when you start to heal the family karma. And so it's in the energetics, it gets lifted. Now, your biological children, their genetics will also have that ancestral karma will be removed when you heal it. You should try and heal it before the children are here. However, all time and space doesn't really exist. And not only that, but the children that you are designed to have are actually, they're tucked away in your DNA. And so science can actually prove how many children and what genetic expressions that those children are going to be before you even conceive the children. And so that's wild. That's like mind blown. But that's what science can actually do for us. So yeah. Okay. So we're just going to go over a couple of our specials and sales that we have. So we are offering a crystal package that's on the DanielleLipton.com website. And so that's something new. We really wanted to start a crystal trading program where we take a crystal and we can give you guys crystal, but we didn't know how to work out the shipping cost. So what we're going to do instead is we're setting up a PO box so you guys can donate crystals to us, and then we can gift them to other people. And then we're also setting up personalized crystal boxes so that we can put together a type of crystal package in which we take each and every crystal and we program them to activate your extrasensory abilities. It's all going to be random, and it's all going to be whatever the star people tell me that you need. So each and every person is going to get personalized. This is not going to be like everybody gets the same box of crystals. No, this is going to be, we're going to take individual crystals, we'll bless them, we're going to clear the energy. I'm going to super program them with abundance coding so that they can actually tune your frequencies and allow you to manifest extremely high levels of abundance. And then not only that, but abundance is not only wealth or money, it's also health. And so, or knowledge, and whatever it is that you guys need to assist you along your path of evolution, they are saying, because the star people are going to help me do all this. So those packages, they're on the DanielleUpton.com website. We do offer sessions. And so I do Ascension sessions in which I pull apart your energetic grids. We clear everything. We let the star family come in. And then they tell me what information that you guys need in order to get you to the next level of your evolution. And so that's always fun. My partner, Allie, she actually does morning meditation. So you could find the link for that is also on the website. Please like, share, and follow if you guys like all the information. And so thank you, Sean Carter, very much for all the hearts and the likes. I know I see you guys doing it. Yeah, and we do have an email subscription list. And so the email subscription list is on occasion we send out discount codes for sessions or meditation. Sometimes we hold classes. We did the root chakra, we did the sacral chakra. And so different classes come and go. I do think the next class that we are going to try and put together is going to be how to channel extraterrestrials. And so once again, that's me on a Zoom. So you guys have access to ask questions. Now we are also holding the Star People private group. That's a Zoom private channeled session. And so that's on November 19th at 8 p.m. We do still have some spots available because we like to keep the Zooms to a minimal level. This way, everybody gets a chance to ask questions. And so we have noticed that that one has been selling out very rapidly. So just be aware, get your spots now. And so, yeah, if you guys have any more questions for tonight's live, then please send the questions in because I'll answer them all before we go. And thank you guys so incredibly much for coming and being a part of our community. And we truly are blessed to be able to have this experience and really help you guys to evolve because, it's my absolute dream that each and every one of you can activate your crystalline DNAs and fire up at least one magical ability. Now, I've made lightning. Other people, I've seen them, they've been able to move items with their mind. So like if you take a tea light and you stick a little pin in it, you could take a piece of tin foil, put it on the tin, and then you could put something like a glass vase over it. You can sit there and try and pulse your energetics out of your hands and try and move the tin foil. So you know that it's not your breath because it's being covered by a piece of glass. And so you'll be surprised how easy you can do this. A lot of people can bend spoons. It's not the spoon that bends. It's actually your perception that allows the instantaneous manifestation of the spoon to bend. So this is the way the entire physical reality works. When we realize that it's just our perception that shifts and that allows us into a parallel reality because we are shifting billions and billions of times each second. Okay, let's see. What's the best way to keep eating high vibrational foods? I sometimes hear energies telling me to eat low vibrational foods. Sometimes you need to eat hot food. And so a lot of times the star people tell me, and they tell you guys, and they're like, try and eat living foods because raw foods can light ions. So what is a light ion? A light ion is electrical in its nature. And so when you are eating the raw food, you're actually filling up your chi energetics. A lot of people are running low on energy. And so when you ever feel sick or depressed or sad, that means that you have a low chi energy, which is the voltage of electricity in the biological form. And so your pH levels in your water actually helps to get that electricity inside each and every cell. And so when you start eating raw foods, there's water inside the food that directly has an impact on the voltage of the physical body. And that allows you to raise the chi energetics. However, you also have your magnetic energy, and your magnetic energy is your emotions, which is why it's coming from the heart. It is connected into the magnetic grids of Mother Earth. We are connected to this planet on such a high frequency that when you start to pull that magnetic energy down, that's actually how you pull the higher self down, and that's how you bring the magnetic energy of the Kundalini back into alignment with your electrical systems. And so eating high vibrational foods, but hearing energy is telling you to eat low vibrational foods. Sometimes you need hot food. Now you have to realize the sun is hot. The sun gives us life. What is the frequency of hot items? So you'll notice that when something is very hot, the frequency is very, very rapid. The atoms and molecules are very rapid. This is how water boils. We are adding a rapid frequency to the water to make it boil. And so when you are consuming anything that's hot, what you're actually doing is you're adding more love into your biological form, which is physical in its nature. And so when you're eating hot food, it has a direct impact very, very rapidly. So it's kind of like adding love into your systems. Once that food cools down, when it starts to hit into the digestion tract, then that love has already been absorbed because the heat transfer process has already happened, he's saying. However, it raises your frequency, but once it cools to 98 degrees, the internal temperature of you, then all of a sudden you start to process the material that's left. And if there has any chemicals or hormones or any of that stuff, all of that stuff is going to get processed and absorbed by the biological form. And so, but sometimes you need it. And so sometimes if you are severely depressed, so let's say for an example, if you reach such a low frequency, sometimes eating the unhealthy food, and even though it's hot, will still raise your frequency. So it depends on how you feel. What is your biological frequency? Are you super fit and fresh? Because if you are exercising every day and sweat, you really want to sweat, because sweat and salt water, like especially our eyes, are salt water tears. And the salt water that we sweat, it's actually cleansing and purifying our emotional grid, he's saying. And so when we do that, then all of a sudden we are releasing hormones in the brain that make us feel good. And this is because your emotional grid gets cleared through the sweat process. And so taking baths with salt water will also help clear the emotional grid. And so eating certain foods, you can use it to raise your frequency, or if you're at a higher frequency, it can lower your frequency. Any plants work the same exact way, including marijuana. And so that's often the one that people always have a question for. They're like, how is smoking affecting my frequency? So let's say, for an example, this is your frequency and this is marijuana. And so if your frequency is way up here and you're smoking marijuana, you do it once, you're going to frequency match that plant. And then you're going to rebalance the frequency that you were at. If you're smoking every single day, you get trapped at that frequency. So you're not able to go too much higher because this frequency locks you in, because there's an alignment that happens. However, if your frequency is lower than the marijuana and you smoke it, it'll raise your frequency, which then in turn changes the patterns of thought in your mind, which allow you to reconfigure your frequency so that you can try and raise frequency to the next level. So a lot of people who are in the lower levels, they may always say, or you may hear them say, oh, I smoke and I get all these great ideas. That's because you're unlocking it and you're bringing more ideas, because the universe made that plant to repattern your thought grid in order to allow you to raise your frequency very rapidly. However, once you're at a higher frequency, you will sink back down and become in alignment, and then you'll get trapped. So using it once in a while is great. Using it all the time is not. And so even if you have something and that's your cure, you want to try and use it sparingly. So, yeah. I don't know how we got into that conversation. Thank you. I hear them. They're all laughing. Okay. How do we release expectations from being attached to our manifestation? Doesn't thinking about them all the time create resistance? Okay. No. So when you think of, you have to be okay with not getting it. And so when you're okay with not getting your manifestation, like basically I put a vision board up on my wall and I was like, whatever, thank you, whatever. And so it's not going to bother me if it doesn't come. However, how am I going to get the car that's on the vision board? I have to go down. I have to see the car. I have to sit in the car. I have to place focus. I have to write it. I have to sit down. I have to figure out the bills. There's a bunch of physical focused steps that each and every one of us would have to take in order to own the car, unless you're a power manifester and you figured out a way to, I don't care. And then all of a sudden someone gifts you the car. So there's many different ways that we can manifest, but most of the time, most people, if you're really trying to bring it in rapidly and you're trying to place your focus on it, it's going to come a little faster. And so when you just put it up on the wall and you're just at peace with it, it will show up whenever your higher self determines you're ready for it. So releasing expectations. There's a moment in the Doctor Strange show, right, where they brought him up on a mountain and he was trying to make a portal. And that man was like, I can't do it, right? And they brought him up on a mountain. They were like, release resistance, right? What were they telling him? Because and now I've had experiences with the star people where they're like, you have to release the physical reality. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Well, when you release the experience of the physical reality, your consciousness will actually push itself back. And so you'll see from back there, your heart rate actually, it completely changes too. And so your heart rate will push back, your consciousness will push back, your body will feel like it's up here, but your consciousness will be back there. That is actually releasing the physical reality as a whole. And so when you do that, then all of a sudden you can really start to make frequency changes and modification to the sub-programming center, which is a subconscious mind, they're saying. And so you're able to make instantaneous environmental shifts, which are in the civilization or the solar system, he's saying. And so what does that look like? That looks like there was a river here, but you pulled yourself back out of the simulation and you commanded that the river be put over there. And so when you blinked, you changed into a parallel reality in which the river was always over here. It wasn't over here. And so we can each do this, but it's just the process is learning how to control the consciousness, which we think is trapped inside the physical body, but it's actually not. So a lot of times you guys can astral project, which is taking the consciousness, your light body, and pulling it out of your physical body and flying around the solar system. So you can actually do this on command. You can pull yourself out of your body. You can make adjustments. You can make changes. There's a dream walker ability in which you're able to become lucid in a dream. A dream does not have to mean that you went to bed and you had a dream. We have daydreams. So have a daydream and change what you're seeing in the daydream and then command it to manifest into your physical reality. You'll start to see mirrored reflections. The mirrored reflections are basically going to look as if you are trying to make a change to the physical reality, and that change is going to be reflected into multiple sources and individuals in your holographic simulation. And so let's say, for an example, you want to manifest, we'll take the car again. You want a Lexus. And so you want that Lexus. Now, all of a sudden, you're getting advertisements for it. You keep seeing them everywhere. You heard someone at the supermarket may have been talking about it. Now, all of a sudden, it's in your reality because you're seeing it from every single angle. That's how you know that that manifestation is about to fire off. You're going to start to see the reflections of the holographic simulation. When you start to see more and more reflections, it's about to manifest. So what do you do at that moment? You release your expectation. You say, thank you, universe. Whatever happens, it happens. I'm happy. And so that's when it's going to really come, because you release the resistance and it's going to fall into your feet. And we're able to do this on so many different levels. It does not only have to be money in abundance. The best way to gain money in abundance, though, is to give everything away. Give it all away. Go help the homeless person that you see. I just brought my kids last week. We went down to, I love Walmart. We had an eye doctor appointment to get contacts and glasses for the kids there, because that's their eye doctor. And so long story short, we ended up taking money and tying it to different shopping carts all around the place. And so that's one way of teaching the children, hey, it's okay to release money and to gift people and random people and strangers. And now we're trying to give people crystals, so we're trying to figure that out. So it's a nice way of doing it. And let me tell you something. Even if you don't have money to give away to people, there's time, right? And I know so many people and so many starseeds. And the number one complaint I get is I'm lonely. I don't have friends. Nobody will talk to me about this information that I'm talking to you guys tonight. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. These are all the complaints. So this is why I've been telling you guys, we're building a community. You guys on the comments, start exchanging phone numbers, start talking to each other, become friends, start making little intergroups. And so we start with the meditation people. There's about 8 people. We all know each other now. And so this happens when you start interacting with people on the regular. And so we need to start building these tiny interconnected communities of starseeds, because, the time for us being alone in a corner is really coming to an end. We need to start coming together, because when we come together, that's really when we can start to place the focus on the activation of extrasensory abilities. Now, telepathy. You have to start to be able to sit down with another individual and to try and project the thoughts and keep working on it every single day. Mothers and children, if you have children, grab the kids and sit down with them and try and do the Uno cards, right? What color is this card? What color is this? What color? And keep doing it, because what you're doing is you're placing the focus on the activation of the telepathic abilities. To manifest, the more focus you put on it. We know it to be real. I'm talking with communication with my extraterrestrials. So if telepathy is real, how do we unlock it? You have to put your focus on it. The universe works like a muscle. That's how your biological form works. That's how the universe also manifests in the solar system, they are saying. And so if everything works the same as a muscle, your brain is a muscle, your body's a muscle, your biological, your internal organs, everything is muscular in its nature. You use it or you lose it. That's what the appendix is. It was lost. And so it got tiny and tiny. And so when we start to use it, then all of a sudden it strengthens it. And so many of you may even have turned on your pineal glands. So your pineal glands turn on, they open up, then all of a sudden it grants you sight into the astral realms. Keep doing it. Keep attempting. Yeah. Does anyone have any more questions? Okay. Perfect. Let me see. How do we release expectations from being... Oh, no, I read that one. Okay. Let me see. I had a dream where I was protecting someone from being harmed. When I woke up, it felt like a reality. Yeah, absolutely. And so you may have even had like a near death. Let me just take a sip. You may have even have had a near death experience. And so we are living in a multiverse. On the rare occasion that you may have experienced a life-ending cycle in a parallel reality, what usually happens when the soul form, the higher self and your conscious mind, when you are not ready to leave the physical reality, let's say you have more life lessons to learn, the higher self will actually say, it's not time. You have to go. And so they'll take you from that moment of death in a parallel reality, and they will shift you into waking up in your bed in the morning in a parallel reality in which 98% of things are all the same, except the things that are different you probably won't even notice, or you'll have a deja vu, and so they'll kind of blend together. And so that is the true nature of the multidimensional world that we live in. So when we know that, it's kind of like being stuck in a holographic simulation. So how do you, it's not even like you're trying to escape it, but you're trying to level up. So how do you level up? Well, you have to overcome the physical reality by activating loving, caring, kind, emotional frequencies, which then in turn raise the biological frequency and allow you to tune into the higher frequency or crystalline DNA realm. When you start to do this, then all of a sudden, time-space becomes something that you can control, and you are able to look at your entire memory grid of every single past and future and present lifetime, as well as make changes and modifications to the parallel realities that you choose for experiential. So that is the secret of the entire world. And so we are able to change our frequency, and we are able to shift into something more pleasurable for us to experience. We've been doing this whole system blind. And so by watching all the subliminal nonsense in the TVs and the programming and the music and the negativity and the garbage, what it's actually doing is it's triggering our brainwave patterning into a lower frequency, grounding us into a physical 3D perspective, not allowing us to really seek our love and light and shine as bright as we could. And then all of a sudden, we're not tuning into 5D frequencies because we're interacting with the physically focused world. And so when we start to change our zone of perception, and we really make it an intention. So it's my intention to not watch TV. What am I going to do? I'm going to pick up either a book, or I'm going to listen to a podcast in which a regular, everyday person is speaking, not someone who's going to implant subliminal audio messages into their work. We don't want none of that. We want positivity only. So some ways that you can start the process of manifesting I only listen to positive information only with no subliminal messaging. And so make it a mantra, make it a manifestation. And then when you are doing your podcast search, your higher self will guide you to the people that you need to listen to in order to raise your frequency and help you through your evolutionary process. They are saying, yeah, excellent. Are there any more questions? Because we're going to try and wrap it up at 9:30. Thank you guys so incredibly much for coming. This was so much fun. I think we'll probably just end it now. You're in Brooklyn. We'd love to connect. I'm actually in Pennsylvania now. My mom's house is in Long Island though. And so I actually was born and raised on Long Island. We were beach rats every day. It was beach. It was great. Yeah. Thank you guys so much though. This was great. Yeah, we do also offer sessions. And so Allie's running the meditation mornings. So all of these different services are on DanielleLipton.com. And so we offer healing sessions. I offer sessions where your star family comes in and you get ascension guidance and things like that. We are offering crystal packages now. We do also have the Star People private Zoom meeting. So that one you actually get to get me on a Zoom, and so you get to ask questions. And so it's we're really trying to keep that one low key. And so the seats are filling up fast. That one's on November 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so if you guys can try and get your tickets now, because it's going to get sold out very rapidly. And like I said, we really want to keep it so that it's kind of smaller. This is why we're doing it twice a month instead of once, because they started getting too big. Yeah, thank you guys so incredibly much. Oh, and if anybody wants to donate to my cause, I really want to raise the planetary frequency, and I really want to focus on helping and assisting people to evolve. And so it is one of my missions to try and write a book or open a school or really step into the role of doing this full time. So we can accept donations at DanielleLipton.com. You can scroll all the way down to the bottom and there's a little donation link, or you can send donations into Star People Group at Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. And so I just want to thank you guys so incredibly much for being part of our community. Thank you for listening. And thank you so much. You guys can also send me your questions, because if you go to DanielleLipton.com, there's a little message icon in the lower right-hand corner. Any questions that you guys have are much, much appreciated, because I'll take them and I write them all in a list. And then when I go on the live videos, I will fire them all off for you. So please send in your questions. I have every single one of you guys and I will write them all down. And thank you for being part of our community. Thank you for being part of our family. And so many, many, many love and blessings. And I wish you guys a wonderful, joyous night. Okay.